As always, we're going to go around to everybody, a few minutes from each person on market sentiment, so just overall feeling of the market. And then after that, we'll go into some individual stock picks for the rest of the week. To kick us off, how about yourself, Andrew? Would you like to get it started?
Sure. Yeah, so the market has been a roller coaster. The past couple of weeks, the volatility has been, pretty wild. And we found ourselves in a situation where the VIX was above a 30 and my trend model was negative. Everything was looking bad. The Fed was saying that inflation was going out of control. So yeah, things were looking pretty bad. And then out of nowhere, the market really just turned. We got news that the Omicron variant, wasn't so bad. And it looks like there was a bunch of players that were all positioned basically the same way. I think everyone got to a very bearish posture in the market. And I think there was just so much pain out there from all these stocks that were down, 40, 50% off their highs. So it was like everyone was loading up on puts and it got really one-sided. And I think that past, 2 days, we've just been seeing this huge short squeeze. So yeah, going from one extreme to another, it's been pretty wild to see.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a great summation right off the bat of how insane this market is. We did a space earlier today, myself, Stock Market News, and a couple of others, going over some individual stock analysis. And the kind of the takeaway, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more later, was definitely that there's going to be opportunity to make money in these markets, but it's never the faster it's gapping up, gapping down in the volatility, the scarier it can be. The more agile you have to be. Sometimes it's best to just sit on the smoother end. You see that gap up, gap down here. And as we've had, 2 days of green, just a reminder, what could happen, right, with a pullback or anything else. So we're going to discuss that for some specific stocks as we get later, and maybe just overall feeling of, do we feel like we're kind of coming back? Is it a dead cat bounce? What's happening? Let's keep it rolling. Stock Talk Weekly. Great to have you on. Would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll kind of echo what Andrew said. Friday of last week, I tweeted that when everybody's bearish, that's when I start slapping calls. And, it just tends to be that way when the trade becomes one-sided and you see the retail herd following the institutional moves and they all get grouped up on one side of the trade. It tends to be, expedient to think like a contrarian in those situations. And we're seeing that play out this week. I don't know if this whole week's going to rip, but, we've seen that play out for the last 2 days. Today, I saw a lot of broad participation. There were a lot of runners. Yesterday was obviously a good day as well, but today there was a lot of broader participation. There were runners in a lot of different sectors and a lot of double-digit runners, at least on my watch list and the stocks that I was looking at. So, I like seeing activity like this, especially coming off of, market weakness. I think it kind of reminds people who get into that, state of fear. What really contributes to market crashes or like steep, multi-week corrections, what contributes to that is like a snowballing of sentiment, right? So you have that initial group that, might panic sell or, follow if a bunch of stops get hit and margin calls get hit. And then you have that follow through effect, right? And then you have people that stay out of the market because of the fear of, buying the dip or getting back in and having that happen again. And so that tends to hold sentiment off for a week or 2 weeks or maybe a month. And that can cause those, broad, longer duration drawdowns in the market. But, I think what we saw here was a rush to both sides of the reaction. We had the Omicron news combined with Powell's comments on retiring the word transitory and Powell's comments on, potentially accelerating the taper. That kind of directly lined up with the Omicron news. And, that combined with a bit of tax selling was enough of a, three-headed negative catalyst to just cause a rush to people selling and diving into puts. And, that narrative can change very quickly, as we saw today and yesterday, with Omicron being viewed as less severe in terms of symptomatics, and also the fact that, many people are saying, hey, this can potentially be a good sign that, I read a piece from um, the New England Journal of Medicine that said this could be a good sign because the virus is mutating more and more rapidly and becoming less and less severe in its symptoms. And that's exactly what happened with the flu. So I think there's like, you know, um, a general broader like FUD that happens more quickly, and the bounce back happens more quickly is the same result because it's such a light finger that's being held over the sentiment. It's not like this massive overdraw that this overhang. It's more so like this light finger that's easy to pull back, and I think we saw that kind of rebound. And there's a lot of playable sectors that are emerging. There's more and more of these beat down stocks that are emerging above their key moving averages. They're getting back into play. They're showing signs of reversal technically. And then on top of that, I think a lot of the tapering reaction, accelerated or not, I believe a lot of the tapering reaction to be baked in. I'm not entirely sure that the interest rate reaction is baked in, but I think to a degree, for some sellers it might be. And, I still think we see a steeper reaction next year in response to interest rate hikes. But, the way that economic growth forecasts are looking for the next 2 years, I was talking to Jay Special Situations about this for the last few days. And, we both really believe there's a chance that the Fed may have to rush to interest rate hikes next year only to come into 2023 to lower them again if growth is not at expectation. So there's a lot of policy headwinds, but I think there's also a certain level of policy um, uncertainty, even though people feel like there's this consensus of, interest rates just starting to go up in one direction continuously, middle or late next year. So I think because of that policy uncertainty, I think that actually gives us a bit wiggle room for runs in the market. And I expect it to continue to be choppy, but as long as it's tradable, I'm fine by that. I mean, I'm a trader at my core. So if there's volatility, it's tradable, whether I have to trade it on the downside or the upside. So I'm fine with how the market's been lately, honestly. Obviously, I've had some really good days and some really bad days, but I like volatility because it keeps me on my toes and forces me to continually look for new trade ideas. So I enjoy it personally, but I expect the chop to continue.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting approach. The chop and the volatility really works with your style, which has definitely been honed from a decade of experience. And I think it's maybe the market in which you thrive, right? As you kind of pointed out there, versus some others which definitely do better in that more stable, slow, steady environment. So I think this is just, points to the conclusion that there are opportunities, but they may not be for everybody. So it's something that you have to kind of look at your own style here, and if it's not something which you're comfortable with, there's no need to dive in. And if this is where you thrive, there's opportunity galore. But if there's it can't come from the FOMO or jealousy. It have to be from a place of experience and comfort in order to be
Yeah.
successful, unless you're just getting lucky, right?
Yeah. Like it's not an investor's market right now, is what I would say. It's a trader's market right now. And I like that. But, for people who are passive investors or people who may have their money managed by a fund or whatever it is, and they don't have active control or even active oversight of their portfolio, for those kind of people, this is not obviously a great market because those rips and dumps are psychologically burdensome. But if you're a trader and you're looking for volatility and you're looking for beta, I mean, this is the kind of market you like.
100%. Awesome stuff there. Love that for the start. Okay, Blake, you haven't been on one of these in a little bit. Great to have you back here. Would love to hear your thoughts on market sentiment right now.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? It's great to be back. It has been a little bit. I've been up to my eyeballs in the NFT space, which has been a ton of fun. But I'm just getting back into the real swing of things as I see what the market did today. So yeah, talking about, kind of what's my take and what's my sentiment on the general market. I'm more of a trend follower and a swing trader. And so, Juicy knows and Andrew and most of you guys know when the market goes into no trend or a downtrend, I pretty much just sit on the sidelines and wait. That's my game. Everybody has their own style. Uh, if you're into volatility and trading, it's a great market. It's been a great market for you the past 2-3 weeks. But me personally, I've been sitting in cash, waiting on the sidelines. And just today, I started to deploy some new risk exposure And some of the sectors that I'm looking at, I'm a big sector and asset class kind of guy, especially with the indexes. So I'll look at what's leading, and what I'm really liking right now is semis. So I'm looking for Nvidia and your AMDs to pick up some steam again, and to lead this market a bit higher if we can see some more follow through. So yeah, I've been sitting on the sidelines, seeing the bounce off the 50-day, yesterday, and then seeing some follow through today. Very positive signs for me. So I've deployed some risk.
Yeah, I like the two-step approach there. First, not wanting to catch a falling knife, right? Waiting to see if there's a confirmation in the trend reversal, if it can hit certain places. And then number two, attacking strength, right? Looking at Nvidia and semiconductors and things like Apple and some other areas where I'm sure we'll talk about Apple tonight, and saying, these are the areas where I see strength in the market, where they're holding up under tough market conditions. Institutional investors are acquiring here. Those are where I'm going to go. I think my style reflects yours pretty similarly. Okay, keep it rolling. Juicy, would you like to go next?
Hey, what's going on? I just gotta let you know I got a little puppy right here next to me. His name's Bucky, so he might bark here in the background. But yeah, man. For me, one thing I want to tell everybody is you really have to learn how to identify these cycles in these markets, right? And you have to trade accordingly to the cycle. So until yesterday, we've been in another accumulation phase, and for me, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think we broke out of that accumulation phase, and this starts to mark up. I'm bullish here on the market. I did open up some positions here in QQQSPY. I went ahead and averaged down on my longer term SPY position, about another 1,000 shares. So for me, I'm looking for SPY to revisit the all time highs. So I'm pretty much all around bullish. I agree. Just want to echo what Blake just said. Big shout outs to Blake, Trade Tracer. Be sure to go ahead and follow him as well. But the semis are going to lead the way. I had some Nvidia calls. I pretty much off those because I had some weeklies. I wasn't thinking right because I wanted to get confirmation of the close before I opened a longer term position. So I pretty much got in and out of those. But all in all, I'm bullish on both SPY and both QQQ. I'm expecting them to go higher, and I'm long both.
Yeah, definitely keeping an eye on SPY, keeping an eye on Q. You were on with us earlier, gave us kind of a few different price target and areas of where, you would go long versus short. And I'm continuing to keep my eye on those. I haven't been, what I've been seeing lately is a lot more people being driven to trade SPY and Qs in this type of environment. Certainly people have been gravitating towards this. That's where we're going to see a lot of the money going. I think it reflects what we were saying with Blake. Also, just because Blake brought this up, I won't spend more than 10 seconds on this, but last night I did a masterclass in NFT utility space, just because Blake mentioned NFTs, and you can see it's his profile picture. And somebody actually gave me a few
Yo, we
NFTs,
got we
and
got to
I was
talk,
going to
Gav.
give one of them away. Yeah, we'll definitely chat. So if you click into my top post and I pinned it up top, I won't really talk about it, but it's cool. It has real utility. You can use it to enter play to earn games in 2 weeks. And I'm just going to give that away to somebody. So if you want to enter, that's in the pin post up top. But this is not an NFT focused space, just something I wanted to throw out there. Okay, going to you, Juicy. I see your hands up again.
Now, so I just wanted to comment on, and I get this question a lot. You said a comment right there. It says, a lot of people are driven to trade SPY. A lot of times they swing SPY. You pull up a chart of SPY, doesn't matter the time frame, and I know there's manipulation involved. Which way does it go? It goes up. Even when it dips, it turns around and goes up. So for me, my biggest common position is SPY because of that reason. Until that trend line actually breaks and we sell off, I'm going to go be a permanent SPY bull. I'm going to have phases where I'm like saying, hey, we're going to pull back, but I'm pretty much bullish on the market overall, even with all the manipulation, until I get that trend line at the bottom here broken.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And shout out Parrot, who's stopping by to hang with us, and Sarge, and TSDR, and all of our friends in the audience who are hanging out with us tonight. We love having y'all here. Okay, Matt, would love to hear from you.
Hey, Gav, hope all is well. I think this is exactly what we want to see. Unfortunately, so many think when you think Santa Rally that it's December 1st and that's where we're going to go and we just have nothing but upside. We had so many divergences occurring, especially in the major indices, as well as some of the bigger names as we were trying to push to highs. We just didn't have that confirmation and didn't have the best market internals or breadth set up. So this is kind of a bit of a welcome so that we can kind of digest, regroup, and look to push a little bit higher. One of the things that really had my attention and made me err on the way of caution was the VXX, the volatility index, seeing some size dark pool activity on 11/29 with almost 6 million shares. And that was just kind of a very unusual positioning and way above average to what we have seen before. So that kind of had me a little bit more on guard, especially with the setups that we had. But we have since started to come down from that and have been starting to see them exit. Also seeing them closing out some put positions that were a little bit longer dated. So kind of all something that we want to see, that they're not really coming back in and stepping back on the gas to kind of collect some and be a little more active in volatility. So do like that setup. Definitely we'll be talking about some activity that we've had money flow wise in Apple, as well as the semi space. So we'll oh, and additionally, just kind of wanted to talk about before this run up, transports have been interesting. I think it was this weekend I was doing some chart review, and you had the trucking and rail industry group showing some relative strength. And I kind of thought that was perhaps a little bit telling in the sense of maybe we're getting a lot of the supply chain issues that we've had previously worked out, and maybe the market's being a little forward telling. That would be definitely some good news. But like seeing that we have trans with strength, semis showing strength, that does really tend to bode well for a good outlook on the overall market.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And that's an interesting sector to look at there with transports. And I think it does make sense, though, with all the just crazy supply chain problems that we've been having that are maybe like factors into there. Yeah, definitely what I've seen is certain areas of the market have been key leaders in this. And it's always great to, log in. I use FinViz in the morning. You kind of look at that initial map and see where is the heat on today. And then understanding how it pulls out deeper. Actually, I was on this space earlier today with Unusual Whales and X Exclusive, and they were talking about how they were looking at Nvidia, but before they ever place a trade on Nvidia, they go ahead and they look at what is it, SMH, right? Is that the semiconductor one? Yeah. And they take a look at SMH and they make sure SMH has hit through certain levels on the day. And it's basically the idea of don't just trade the stock based on the stock, look at the sector as a whole, and sometimes you even look at other sectors and how they factor into a specific stock. And that's really, I think, the mind of a trader kind of evolving, right? And that only comes from experience and learning and listening. So definitely really powerful stuff and different areas to look at. I love it. Thank you, Mel. Vegas, I'd love to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And nice to see Doll's in the house today, too. So thank you, Miss Doll, coming in from OTC Club, hanging out with us. The market's been great. I mean, buy signal was triggered yesterday, went long yesterday on the actual SPYs and QQQ, and was happy to see that many people did really well on those overnight trades. And obviously, I know Apple's been really hot. So very excited about what I'm seeing in the market. I mean, obviously, you had to switch gears from what we experienced last week with some chop, and then seeing the action yesterday, and then, being comfortable taking going long on some calls and taking swing trades. So really pleased with, the market money flow also helping to validate and confirm. I've been watching, I track a lot of dark pool print. Mel knows I do a lot of dark pool trades. And I had a lot of confirmation, a lot of great setups. So really look forward to later this evening when we go through the round table to share some really great trading opportunities, if they're not mentioned from some of the other traders here tonight, but really excited of the momentum that we're seeing. And I kind of was thinking back to like last year. I didn't really feel that there was a Santa rally at all. I kept saying, "Where's the rally? Where's the rally?" And I didn't really feel like we had one. So I'm really happy to see that, we're kind of seeing some exciting moments as we experienced yesterday and today. So definitely taking it, each day as it comes, and just really happy to be right now I'm bullish. Like I'm bullish right now. I'm long. So I'm really excited. I'm on the same page as everyone here, and with Juicy Sentiment, he's long on SPY and QQQ, and I'm loving it all. So I'm excited.
Love it, love it. And yeah, big shout out to Doll Stacky Robinson who's hanging out with us. Before I go over to Andrew, I saw Mel. Did you throw your hand up?
Gab, I just thought that was such a good highlight, and definitely want to reinforce that. Looking at the overall market, just to make sure that you're staying in line. The last thing that you would want to do is, be long in the worst performing sector, especially if you're looking to day trade. So it's not necessarily always those individual names, but that basket. And you gave a really good reference. FinViz is free, and that map is just a really great resource. So anybody that is just starting out, definitely make sure that you're checking out that site and adding that to your arsenal, because it does keep you in line with what is actually trending in the market, especially if you're shorter term day trader, momentum trader. You want to stay in sync with what is actually moving. Just thought that was a great point, and just wanted to reiterate that for anybody that may be newer in the market, looking for just some good tips.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And I find that the only way to learn about those things is to listen to people, right? It's like listen to people talk about it. So when we're listening on these spaces live, and sometimes someone will be like, "Hey, I'm trading this," I'll be like, "Well, what did you look at in addition to that before going to trade it?" Because of course, a lot of times you want to look at the fundamentals, you want to look at the technicals. And for those who are listening, this is a pretty strictly technical space. I used to say that in the title, but we do also do some fundamental spaces and focus on those. And I think we always preach, certainly Stock Talk Weekly, I see him saying it all the time. It's that perfect combination of the fundamentals and the technicals, the momentum and different areas. So we're kind of coming at this right now, first from a technical perspective, but of course you can use multiple. And listening to people, say like what they make a correlation between specific stocks and specific overall sector ETFs or anything along those lines. And it's kind of that whole mindset as well when it comes to investing and trading specifically, where you need to be able to make these split-second decisions sometimes, especially if you're trading something like options, which are extremely volatile. And it helps to just have as much information as possible at your disposal. And that's why you see these people with like 8 screens. I don't have that. I literally do everything off a laptop. But a lot of people do have all this because they want to just have that access to so much different information to be able to make those educated decisions with. That, I guess it looks cool. All right, Andrew, coming to you.
Yeah, definitely want to second that the FinViz heat map is one of the best free tools out there. I use that thing, every single day. It's a great way to just, get a quick feel for the market and what's moving. And along those lines, I think this market is hitting a point of just max frustration where pretty much everyone was long going into December looking for the Santa Claus rally. And then all of the crowded trades literally just got blown to smithereens. It was like the EVs got blown up. The metaverse stocks got blown up. Crypto got blown up. Like all these different areas, the high valuation growth stocks also blown up. What's interesting is now the market is rallying back. And the S&P 500 is pretty much trading, right back to the all-time highs. But what's interesting is that it's a whole new, cohort of stocks that's leading the market. So like it hasn't really been symmetrical where it's like, if I held my growth stocks through the correction, now they're all bouncing back and now I'm whole. A lot of those growth stocks, it seems like they're being left behind. And I think it's partly because, we still have all these uncertainties over, rising interest rates and inflation and what is the Fed going to do, all that stuff. So it seems like the market has basically got blown out of some of those more speculative trades. And now into year end, it's like everyone wants to participate in the Santa Claus rally. So it's like everyone wants to get long, but it's like, how do I do that in a safe way? So I'm noticing like a lot of these highly liquid stocks that are, huge mega cap names that are held in the popular indices like the S&P 500, like the NASDAQ. Those are really the names that are leading. And a lot of the
Does
names
Apple
that,
ring a bell?
of course, yeah, Apple's basically like the front runner now. And then a lot of these other names that are kind of like the ones that are more discussed on FinTwit, a lot of like the more smaller cap, those kinds of names, those ones are still being left behind. So like in my trading, it's been important to, some of those exposures I had on that were more like the high flyers, I stopped out of those. And it was like, okay, I'm not going to stay in these if they're not moving. And I've tried to go more closer to the benchmark, closer to the index, like I see a lot of these funds are doing. But yeah, Apple definitely, the big front runner.
Yep, certainly is one that comes to mind. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people are looking for ways to go long, but ways to safely do it. And it's kind of looking at, sure, we'll talk a little bit of seasonality, a little bit of historicals here as well, and how those things factor in as we're looking for perhaps a repeat from history. Got a couple of DMs. Appreciate some of the kind words that are coming in. One thing someone did ask about consulting, mentoring, coaching. I don't do that, but all my speakers up here are honestly the best coaches and mentors and consultants that I know. That's why we made this really elite panel up here. And if you're trying to learn from them, I recommend going ahead and throwing them all a follow. They put out consistent daily content that's free. You can look at them. Mel really focuses on those dark pools. Stock Talk Weekly is awesome for the different momentum opportunities. I know that Andrew has several models that he's always putting out there. Juicy, I'm hopping on your live streams in the morning. Vegas, you're talking, cryptos and stocks, and you always have a wide list. And Blake, great to have you on here too. And, chat NFTs and everything. I got to get back to the DM. So make sure that these are the people that you're following. This is like the free way to learn right here. That is what I would say. And then feel free, if you have questions, DM them a question. If you put together a really good question where you're being sincere and you have, maybe you're trying to learn more about a specific area, I don't see a reason why they, wouldn't get back to you. So with that being said, we're going to move in. Oh, actually, real quick, I want to throw it over to you, Evan, Stock Market News. Would love to get your thoughts on market sentiment, and then we'll get to stock picking.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing for me is just really how quickly we switched from, what it was on Sunday. And I feel like even Monday morning, it was pretty bearish. Monday morning, the futures might have been green. Maybe it was the end of last week. Just how bearish we were, how, volatile last week was. I do still think, obviously the stock market, it's a market of stocks. You're going to probably, I definitely could see that Santa Claus rally towards the end of the year where we see the averages move higher, but there's definitely going to be a lot of stocks that are still going to move lower. I look at the companies that reported earnings today, and they all felt similar-ish type of companies. I'm not saying in like what they do, but just like they're reporting numbers in the similar type of area in revenues and something like that. And a lot of them fell. So I will be interesting to see. There's a couple more larger earnings tomorrow with GameStop and UiPath to see how that goes. But overall, as someone with my largest holding is Apple, and then we got Nvidia and whatever flowing behind that, I had a good day. I'm happy with it, and I'm here to hold for the long term. I don't know how much I have in here, but yeah, appreciate it. Excited to keep going.
Yeah, that all sounds. What'd you say? Yeah, okay, that all sounds pretty good. And I agree with you. It definitely did switch fast. But that was back on Friday because I know Monday morning I tweeted out about futures because those Dow futures were looking pretty good. And then we had a live call, and I think we were making some money on the call. Things seemed okay on there. It's a good thing that we didn't, I guess, short path just yet. You know what? I meant to put in that short before close today. Or maybe they report earnings after tomorrow.
After tomorrow's close, we still have time.
Okay. Yeah, we can get in on it. There's definitely a lot that's been going on in those different areas. But yeah, with that being said, we've gone through a little bit of initial market sentiment. Let's get into some stock picks, especially with this market. We're looking for a lot of these traders will be using technical terminology. If anybody in the audience is unfamiliar, there's a ton of great resources. Specifically, I personally am using TrendSpider. You could look stuff up on YouTube. We'll be talking a little bit about things like moving averages and volume weighted average price and a couple of other items. I've explained them on some spaces before. If you hear a term, feel free to just go to Google, throw it into Investopedia. You'll be able to find a definition. If you don't understand something, I highly recommend following along on your laptop and Googling it and learning while we're doing this. It will make ever the difference. Okay, with that being said, let's go into some individual stock picks. Juicy, you want to kick us off?
Sorry, I had to hit the unmute button. For me, a couple things. I got two things I'm pretty much watching. I got some long positions on. First one's going to be SPY. If you're not, I'm already in it. I got to disclose that to you. I have shares and contracts. But if you're not in it, anything that breaks the higher day of 1124, 469.63 is the level to watch. I'm going to be looking for this to move to the all-time high. Next one's going to be ticker MRNA. We did go inside here. So I'm looking for this. We're not inside. I'm looking for this to continue. We bounced off the 200. The trigger is going to be 287.72. So if we get above that trigger, I'm going to be looking for this to continue to the 304.24 area. So those are my two picks. I'm pretty much positioned in this market, so I'm going to be scalping day by day in the meantime.
mRNA, what was the first ticker?
SPY long, SPY.
Okay. Yeah. mRNA and SPY. Okay, yeah. So definitely, I'm sure we'll talk plenty about SPY. mRNA, it's a really good looking chart, I think, too. Like right now, I mean, I don't know. I hear what you're saying with the triggers. This 200 day, tested it nicely, came back through it, is testing it again. If it could hold that and come back up to the 50 day, there's a nice volume ledge up towards 331. So I think I see a lot of what you're seeing there. I drew a couple of trend lines as well. Although yours are probably nicer than mine. And then obviously if it can get back up to, that 355 area. Now that's a far away move to get back up to 355, but that's where you would have an anchored VWAP from the all-time highs as well as the 100-day moving average. But in the meantime, I like your triggers, and I'm also kind of looking for it to come back to. I've really been liking the 10-day EMA too, and so that's kind of up towards that 295, 296 range. So yeah, a little bit of work to get through here, but really interesting chart. And good looking RSI and seasonality and everything off the bat. So awesome. Thanks, Juicy. Okay. Mel, you want to go next?
Sure. I want to start off. I did get some charts posted, but going to start off with the XOXL, which is going to be 3 times leverage semi bull. And interesting today, just with the activity, of course, with relative strength in some of the semi names. But we had them originally coming into this week's in the money $67 calls this morning. And about midday, they came in and hit the 1217 $85 calls several times. Like they hit it 8 times with over 332,000 in premium. And spot price was currently at 70.73, which is pretty big outsized move, but could signal that we'll have continued strength in the semis. Also interesting to note, going through not only the SMH, but the SOXX, which is also iShares semi, actually made a new high before a lot of our individual names in that space did. So kind of think that there may be a little something telling there. So continuing to monitor the semi names. Otherwise, sector XLF with 22.3 million share dark pool print here after hours. And if you take a look at what I shared and posted, I've got the 30-minute dark pool volume profile chart over to the left just to kind of show you how large that is with what we've seen recently into the XLF. Also worth noting that we've had some bullish put activity. So this may be kind of one of those conundrums, but they're closing out a longer term XLF put position. The 617 $30 puts all went bid side, so they're not expecting that to continue to go down, or they want to just close out of that position. We also had a little put writing, which is bullish activity. They're writing that to collect premium into this week's 39. So just some side notes on that one. Otherwise, liking the setup that we had on PLBY. I know this is a name that has been mentioned several times, even specifically with this group, but I think you've just got a really nice setup here. We had a little dark pool activity come in this evening, 395,000 shares. It's not a name that often sees activity at all, and I think you've got an interesting setup, kind of a cup and handle here on the daily or just this consolidation period. But check out that daily chart, and that volume that's coming through is definitely telling. Looks like we have some institutional hands stepping up to potentially accumulate here in Playboy. Otherwise, plug a bit of a falling wedge on the daily chart. End of day saw a little bit of activity into the Jan 21 $47 calls. They hit this several times. Again, another one that's a bit out of the money, but they were pretty relentless and continued to come in. We've got about 877,000 in premium behind that. Do also have a few upcoming conferences going into next week for Plug and early January. So definitely one to keep on your watch list, especially if we can break out of this falling wedge.
Ooh, those are some great names. So I'm noting these down. So just to confirm, Mel, those were SOXL, XLF, PLBY, and PLUG, right?
Yes, sir. So 2 sectors and 2 individual names. Just some kind of things to keep an eye on.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at these. The best of those, I haven't looked in closely at the dark pool print yet, but PLBY, the chart definitely looking really nice. That anchor view up from the all-time high, it just broke through it today. It tested it with a green candle, and I know that's one of Ben Pattern Profit's also favorite things right there. When it can kind of test and then come in on the next day. Had a pretty good day today, obviously, for PLP Watt, and really has held nicely above the 200 day after, testing it, 1, 2, 3, like 4 times. And if it could come through that anchored VWAP and then it has its big volume ledge here, it's still got room back to its all-time highs. Playboy looking good here. And a lot of people like the fundamentals in that one too. When you dig into them and the strategic path which they're taking and kind of the rebranding of the organization, a lot of good things to look at there. And then SOXL, I mean, that's like Nvidia on steroids, right? Up 15% today, another percent after hours, and just kind of flying 50% last 3 months. Huge jumps over the past year, and just continuing to show some strong movement. 5 years up 2,000%. So we'll be crazy to see where this one continues to go. And at $72 per share, perhaps some more growth here. And we'll have to see. I can see why a lot of dark pool activity definitely came in for that, a lot of option flow. And then the other one, so XLF, yeah, I mean, we've hit on financials a few times. Definitely, if everybody is following along, pull up this XLF chart, and it's like SPY. It's just, I mean, obviously it is a select sector fund within SPY, but it's just running up, and has kind of been now accumulating right at these levels. And you'll see there's just a giant volume ledge coming in here at that 38 range. So it's definitely got some nice room there. Its moving averages have kind of caught up. I think that's what we like to see. So if we're leaning into this period of some bullishness in that area, that could be one to go into. Really good names there all around. Love it. Okay, let's keep it going. Blake, you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks. And so far, I just want to say, everybody who's given out some feedback to their stock picks, I love what you guys are saying here, especially Mel. Most of you guys know I'm big into the indexes. I'm big into the different sectors and asset classes, and SOXX, which is the semis, like I already said previously, I think they're going to lead. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with you there, Mel, with the semis. A couple names that I'm looking at are AOSL. Just extremely bullish, tons of momentum. And I'll say this, one day doesn't make a market, and everybody has their own style of trading. Everybody has their own unique risk profile and investment and trading time horizons. So my strategy might be different than most, but what I look for is I look for relative strength, and I look for what's leading the market, because I plan on participating in these trades, for the next several days. So I'm looking to capitalize on an outsized move. So when something has a lot of momentum and is leading the market, I tend to trade those types of trades. So I like AOSL, and also like Nvidia to come back today. We closed above the 10-day moving average after a nice consolidation back into the 10-period moving average into roughly like the 318 to 310 range, nice consolidation zone. So I'll be looking for a break above today's high on Nvidia, and I'll throw one more kind of sector out there is the home builders, so XHB. And if you want to throw a little leverage on that, I like NAIL, NAIL. So that's what I got.
Definitely interesting. Yeah, AOSL, another semiconductor play there. Actually, not one that I'd really looked at. So just to confirm, the tickers were AOSL, NVDA, and then your third one was, you said NAIL?
You got that correct.
Is that NAIL?
Yep. Yeah, it's basically just a leveraged home builders index.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, obviously, first thing I like is, basically all the names you just said right there are pretty much near all-time highs. And I actually do personally, I like when there's a little bit of space, but like they're not too far off. All of them have kind of had this move back. So Nail, now raising above its moving averages. That was quite a nice run it had there for like 3 weeks straight. But it doesn't seem like it basically got too affected by this market downturn, even back on December 2nd. And, I think when a lot of other things were falling on those days, it seems like it had a nice move. And then AOSL just kind of booming. I don't have a ton to add on the chart there as to what it's doing because it's kind of above everything. But if you are believing the semiconductor industry, and especially what I'll just reiterate is a lot of these picks, I understand that we're talking with a lot of traders, but a lot of these picks do have plenty of potential long term. And if you're believing, let's say you believe in semiconductors, which I believe in semiconductors, they basically make up everything that's useful to my life nowadays. There is going to be names in those industries that are, look at the last 5 years. Imagine the next 5 years. In the last 5 years, how important were, computers to compare to how they'll be in the next 5 years? And
Don't
so
get me
many other
started
things
on the
that there's.
metaverse there, Gav. Don't get me started
Yeah,
there.
yeah. With plenty of metaverse plays and so much more.
Exponential
So
age. Yeah, we've got a lot of growth to do.
exactly. So you can be thinking, hey, maybe this looks good in the short term, but also zoom out and look long term. And uh, this was also said on this morning's space with exclusive, where somebody asked what time, I don't know what to call it, time zone session, whatever, do you use? Like amount. He goes, I use everything from the 1 second to the 1 year. It's everything in between because it just depends on how long you plan on placing that for. And you can always just use that more information to bring into the picture. But really good stuff. Okay. Stock Talk Weekly. You always have all the stock picks because you got to load up at the beginning of the week. I'm interested in how some of those are doing. They probably had some really hot starts except for the shorts. That should be the indicator was when half the people went short that we were going to have a good week.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, because we've been doing that. That's kind of why I wanted to do that, play of the week show that I've been doing because, I get 30 different traders in there that think 30 different ways. And, so you can kind of assess sentiment. It's a small sample size, but yeah, seeing that this week, how so many people were calling short plays, that did really make me bullish. And yeah, today was a, really good day for me. Most of the stuff that I had positions in was up big. I did a tweet today about most of it, but TRT, IonQ, BidF, DMYQ, RDW, Tesla, Square, they were all up. So those are like my biggest positions right now, and so they all had big days. DMYQ finished. It's up now a bit more after hours. It's up 13%. So that's one, that I'm definitely looking at this week. The ticker changes to PL, Planet Labs, tomorrow. This is a company that, I know a lot of people have heard me speak on this before. So if you have, pardon me being a bit repetitive on it, but I'll try to give it a summary. But, for those who didn't listen to my interview with Nicola DeMasi, which was one of my favorite interviews I've done, he's just such an informative guy. He's the SPAC sponsor for this deal. So the company's Planet Labs. It's really just an impressive company. They're a satellite imaging company, kind of in a league of their own. Their main competitors are Black Sky and Maxar Technologies. Black Sky has a constellation of 8 satellites. Maxar has a constellation of 4 satellites. Planet has a constellation of 200 imaging satellites. So their lead is just the moat is a very, very deep technological moat because it's not as simple as just launching satellites. You have to design them, you have to build them, you have to launch them, and then you have to put in software stacks on top of them that make them usable to a variety of use cases. And Planet is a fully vertically integrated company that has done this. They really got famous off their Google partnership. So Google purchased a 10% stake in the company. I believe it was about 7 years ago, in return for supporting their Google Earth imaging program. And Google originally had their own satellites dedicated to Google Earth. What they quickly realized was that Planet, being the only company in the world that fully images every single square inch of the Earth every single day, they're the only company that does that. Google realized it was more efficient to just invest in that company, turn over their satellites, and have that be their primary imaging provider. So Planet is still Google's primary imaging provider for Google Earth and other applications. So that's a huge moat in my opinion, because NASA as well also uses their technology. So those are the two main, premier use cases for satellite imaging technology that you could think of, and the two premier clients as well. But the metrics on the business, are just jumping off the page. 90% recurring revenue, 73% of annual contract value is multi-year. Of those multi-year contracts, most are 3 to 5 year plus contracts. They have 110% net dollar retention rate. They're running 62% gross margins, and they're doing 50% CAGR on every single contract worth over $1 million. Every single one. They're doing 50% CAGR. And so that's on pretty much all of those contracts that they have, barring some very few contracts that fall under that value. But it's a business that's growing a lot internally that's not necessarily showing it on the revenue growth. They had, I think, roughly 30% year over year revenue growth as of the last quarter. But, that's to me not what the crux of the, analysis is here. It's that once they get the funds from the SPAC, they're going to be able to increase their moat so much more exponentially that they're really going to become a non-competitive industry. Satellite imaging, this is, for all intents and purposes, at least technology-wise, a monopoly run by Planet. And once the market starts to pick up on that, I think there'll be more reception. They have contracts in every single vertical you can think of: agriculture, defense, logistics, finance, insurance. They are in several multi-trillion-dollar industries, including in the fight for sustainability and green energy. So it's a company that I love. I plan on keeping my shares for a long time. I'm not saying it's going to blow up on merger, but I expect it to do, if it does dip on merger tomorrow, I expect it to do a very similar thing to what IonQ did, which, for those who are familiar with IonQ, which used to be DMYI, post-merger, that dipped down to the sevens. And, I was really convicted in the name. And so I was adding in the tens and nines and eights and sevens, averaging down, kind of betraying my own rules. But that's what I do sometimes when I'm highly convicted in the name. And what ended up happening was, over the course of the last few weeks, it ran up from 7 to 35 in very short order. So I think there's a chance a similar thing happens with Planet. I'm not going to make a prediction on whether it goes up or down post-merger, because that's a binary event. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. But what I will say is that this company has a very, very deep, actionable moat that they can leverage. And I've done a lot of work on the satellite imaging space, and I just don't see a company that can compete. So that's more so a long-term investment. I won't call it a pick for this week, but there is a chance that it could rally post-merger. It's just not something that I'm in the business of predicting. I'm holding equity, and I'll average down if it gives me that opportunity. Another name I really like in this kind of zone was ChargePoint. Had a miss today after hours on earnings. They missed on EPS. They beat on revenue but raised guidance. For me, the way EV companies are trading and the valuations they're trading at, and how much technical support this chart has around that 20 to 2050 area, to me, this is a buy if this dips lower. Gets any closer to 20 or below 20, I'll be adding it for a reversal. And most of the times that this has bounced off that $20 level, it's been a multi-day runner. So it's, it's been green for, several sessions after that bounce. Square is another name I'm looking at. I expect it to continue this reversal. I think it was drastically oversold along with PayPal, but I'm a bigger fan of Square here. I'm eyeing that name, potentially wanting to get into some shorter term options on that, assuming the market cooperates. I'm going to be monitoring sentiment because if the market's dumping, Square and most else will with it as well. Tesla also, I think, had a really nice close. I was looking for it to close above 1050. I think it closed right at 1051. So that looks good. I think if the market moves higher, Tesla moves higher too, for sure. I mean, it's been that way for most of this year, and I think it'll continue to be that way. RDW, again, another name I'm looking at. I know it's not like a broken drum on RDW, but there's not anything I can do really with that position from a fundamental side. I don't get out of positions until my thesis is either disproven or I have a reason to change it. And my thesis on that company was that they're an undervalued private equity roll up, and nothing has changed about that. The ER delay is clearly an issue, but I really think it's a minor accounting error in my opinion. And I think it's just difficult for them to resolve because they're such an acquisition forward company. So I'm still watching that and still holding that, even though I am down a bit on that position. It's actually, I always preach about not bag holding, but that is a bag I'm actually holding. And then another name I'm looking at is BidF. I liked the rebound today. I added a bunch yesterday down in the fives, and so that was good. I sold out of some of that today, and I'm holding the rest. If Bitcoin can pull off a rally, which it's looking choppy currently, and I want to see Bitcoin get back above that 55K level before I can make that judgment. But if Bitcoin can pull off another rally, this will trade back in the eights very quickly, I think. This moves purely not off the chart and not off, even the indices. This moves purely off Bitcoin sentiment. So I'm trading it as a sympathy to that and kind of just accumulating at lower levels rather than trying to predict the timing of when Bitcoin will rally. So those are a bunch that I'm looking at. TRT, obviously, that's my penny stock. I would say it's the one penny stock I have in my portfolio. But, that's one that actually had really good news yesterday with the PR they put out about finally getting into electric vehicles, semiconductor testing. I think the semiconductor sector stays hot going into next year. And so I think a lot of small cap names that are centered around the semiconductor industry are going to rally. That's why I'm still in the small cap name. I think that whole sector is going to drive a lot of these smaller names higher. And also, considering that they just got into electric vehicles, I think that it gives them an even better peer comparison case to AEHR. So those are the 5 stocks I'm looking at for now.
Very, very nice. So the ones that I had noted down were DMYQ, Square, BitF, RDW, and TRT. Is that
Don't
the
put down
5?
RDW. RDW, I was more kind of giving an update. I would say Tesla instead of RDW.
Okay, with Tesla in there, and I don't have much to add. You add depth to all of those. I thought it was great when we went over the DMYQ. I'm glad we got that one recorded with Nicola DeMasi. That was a really, really good one. Square, I agree with you. It's a bit scary to try and catch this falling knife. I don't really know where I would want to come in on Square. I mean, I guess we got a little bit of green today, but obviously we saw that also happen kind of towards the end of November and before this
Yeah,
sell-off
again,
that
I
we're
just
having
wanted to
now.
clarify. Like, I kind of take my trader's hat off when it comes to Square. I mean, not completely, but like, Square is for me one of my very few long-term positions. So I treat my outlook on that stock more as an investor. Most of my positions, as I trade most of my positions. I'm not in most of them for more than a few weeks or maybe a month. I'm usually short-term swing trading or day trading. So, but with Square, I'm just accumulating it. My cost basis is just a bit over 100, like $104. And so, I'm just accumulating and like, I might not perfectly time every purchase, but it's a long-term position for me. So I just want to clarify that.
Yep, that definitely makes sense to me. No worries at all. And I do like Square for the long-term tour block, I guess as we should call it now. And then still excited for the prospects of all the other ones you mentioned there. With Tesla, it just always shows strength. Always seems to find a way back. So yeah, it's going to move with this market, and it does move the market, quite frankly, with its size. And then BitF and TRT as well. Really good stuff all around there. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's what I'm watching for now. And I mean, I'm a momentum trader. So if stuff comes up on my radar, I mean, I'll be trading it. But that's just what I'm looking at for now in terms of swing positions.
Okay, awesome. Stock market news. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just hoping we could talk a little bit. Sorry about the noise. Talk a little bit about the Google Spaces calendar. It's been almost an hour and we haven't gotten any comments about it.
Yeah, let's real quick do that since we have several hundred people in here. I'm sure some of them have not made their way onto the Spaces calendar just yet. But in simple, for anybody that's out there, I'm sure that you're loving Twitter Spaces. I know I am, and I spent so much time on them that it was necessary to know when they were going to be happening, right? So myself, Stock Market News, and Stock Talk Weekly have all collaborated on a free public Google Calendar. On this, I put all of our spaces for the week, each Saturday and Sunday. I load it up. That way, if you're looking and you say, I want to know when the technical analysis space is, I want to know when stock picking is, I want to know when stock analysis is, I want to know what crypto is, NFTs, whatever it is, you'll be able to look and at one glance at your calendar at the beginning of the week, understand when all of these spaces are going to be happening. And all you have to do to get on it is just simply DM either myself or Stock Market News with your email, preferably a Gmail, but others do work. Send that over and just ask to be on the calendar, and that's it. We have over 1,500 people now on this calendar using it daily. You can toggle it on and off real easily on your personal calendar with just the push of a button. And if you ever decide you don't want it, you can merely unsubscribe. So once again, the easiest way to do this, and you can shoot it over right now, I'll happy to add you to it either tonight or tomorrow morning. Just shoot me a DM. In that DM, put your email and just ask to be on the calendar. We have other services as well, like newsletters, myself, Stock Market News, and if you want to be on those, we're happy to have you on those as well. But again, everything we're doing here is free. We just love the calendar because we think it makes it so easy for people to know when they are. I mean, Stock Market News, I think, finds it helpful because I load up all these spaces, and then he's helping me host. So now I don't even have to, communicate with him what it's going to be. He just can see it on his calendar and know. And we have like tons of testimonials from like hundreds of people now who use this every single day and just absolutely love it. So I see the DMs coming in now. Always fun to chat with people and a great way to get in the DMs. So thank you to everybody that does want to be on that, and we will add you to it very shortly. Anything else you want to add on that, Evan?
No, that was perfect. Loving a lot of the sentiment that's going here. A couple of these names are positions that I already hold, and I'm looking to maybe DCA in a little bit on tomorrow morning. I saw that square chart and I looked at where it was last week, and I'm upset I didn't DCA in a little bit. Like, that's a position for me that I look at as a long-term hold. Maybe not the right spaces to be talking about too much, so I'll keep it brief about it. But long-term hold, my cost basis is right around 70 right now. So I was willing to DCA in around 200, 220, 270. So I'm going to do a little bit more into that tomorrow, maybe hit a little bit of PayPal as well. I was watching the sports betting stocks as well, getting a nice catch. And then one thing that really fascinated me, that, hey, why not get one name on this pick? I'm going to throw Disney out there. We all know the story on Disney, kind of just playing into it. But I was watching the stock today, and it really did not play into the rally. And playing for a little bit of a turnaround, maybe it kind of getting back into favor. I know my short-term theses aren't to the level of the other ones, but I'd love to get a play on the board for this week. So I'll go long Disney out there and see how it plays for next week.
Okay, Disney's on the board. And shout out to the 20-plus people who already are in the DMs asking to be on the calendar. We'd love that. And if you're asking on the calendar, make sure that you're also following these speakers because they're the ones who come and take hours and hours. They're uncompensated. They literally come out of the love of the game and the want to be educating others. And in exchange, it would be amazing if we could help them build their audiences and throw each one of these speakers a follow. At least click into their bios and look at what it says there. Look at what they have to offer. So many resources, not just even on Twitter, but in so many other places. And in Stock Market News and we're out here with Spaces, and we'll be grinding. I mean, we're basically on Spaces all day together now. I think I did already 15 hours this week or something. So we're going to keep those things up and going. Well, actually, no, because today's only Tuesday. Okay, 10 hours, something like that. But yeah, we're going to keep these rolling. And for anyone who's unfamiliar, I do run the Wolf account. I'm going to be hosting a lot of my spaces from this account as well. So if you're already following the Wolf account, feel free to hop on over and check out this account as well. I'll be posting a lot about my trades and things like that too. Okay, let's keep it going. Andrew, would you like to go next with stock picking?
Definitely. So, yeah, my theme into year end is, I want to make sure that I'm not going too far out there on the risk curve, because I have a feeling that's exactly what these active managers are not going to do. I really think into the end of the year, I think everyone knows there's a bunch of issues going on in the system, but everyone wants to get their performance bonus. So it's like, how do we get our performance bonus? And what we can see is everyone's kind of crowding into those FANG stocks. So I think in an environment like this, kind of similar to Juicy, I don't really think there's any shame in just being like, you know what? am I going to try to pick like the diamond in the rough stock that's going to participate, or should I just go with some ETFs? Like, I definitely think there's nothing wrong with playing SPY, playing QQQ. I think the NASDAQ looks awesome because the NASDAQ has a really high concentration in Apple, Microsoft, Google, all these companies that have been participating over the past 2 days. In terms of some individual stocks that I'm looking at, one that is really catching my eye is ICE, and it's Intercontinental Exchange. It's an exchange stock within the financials group. And the reason why I like this one, I posted the chart in the nest here. It just reclaimed the 20-day simple moving average, and it also reclaimed the monthly value area. And we're noticing in the market there's a ton of volatility. And when there's a ton of volatility and everyone is, trading to save their lives, that makes the exchanges a lot of money. So if we get, some strength within the financials group, ICE is probably the stock that I'm going to use to participate in that upside. Another stock that I'm watching very closely for tomorrow is Digitalocean, ticker symbol DOCN. Digitalocean has been one of my best names of 2021. I got long this stock at around like $48, and it's a cloud stock vetted by Ophir Gottlieb and his service CML Pro. Ophir is like a super smart guy with all these technology stocks. He's the one that really got me interested in the stock. The stock pretty much like tripled over the course of a year. And I mentioned on one of these spaces maybe a couple of weeks ago, hey, I think I'm actually going to sell my Digitalocean. And I ended up offloading my Doc N for about like $115, and it proceeded to really get crushed along with these other growth stocks. What I like about Digitalocean is I think it's trading with a lot of these other high flyers that are at insane valuations, but DigitalOcean now is trading at 27 times sales, whereas a lot of these other companies that got decimated, they were at like 100 times sales or like 110 times sales. DigitalOcean had a really nice close today, and this one also reclaimed the monthly value area. So that's one of my favorite setups, like when a stock reclaims one of these key market profile levels. I love that. So tomorrow I'm actually going to be looking to add back my position in DigitalOcean. And then last stock that, this is one that I added today, Shopify. Shopify, it sort of trades with a lot of these high-flying growth stocks, but to be honest, this company pretty much should be right up there with like Google, Facebook, Amazon, those kinds of names. One of the themes that I'm also noticing into year end is everyone's concerned about, the Fed taper, interest rate moves, but there's sort of like this consensus that, hey, like the economy's doing pretty good. Consumers are looking pretty good. They have a lot of savings in the bank. And Shopify is really tied around the consumer economy. So Shopify is one that I added today. So yeah, into tomorrow, definitely going to be watching very closely ICE and DigitalOcean, and then today I added Shopify. And then Apple was my pick last week, and that one I would just reiterate. I do think Apple is the strongest stock in the stock market right now. So I think, any ETF that'll give you exposure to that one, or even just owning the name, into your end, I think should do pretty well.
I think you make a lot of good points there, starting out with first the idea behind, just it's okay to own some of these as ETFs. And I think sometimes we gravitate towards all these fancy ETFs, but there's the simple, the SPYs, the Qs. There's these, I guess they're index funds, but similar concept where it's somebody going ahead and grabbing a basket of stocks. And as you mentioned, right, like a lot of this tax loss harvesting and a lot of these other ends of the year saviors of their capital are taking money out of other areas in the market. But when you go in and you enter something like a SPY or a Q, you can often give yourself access to the upside of those large caps, right, where the money may be flowing, but also the upside of the small caps if there is a large market rally, right? So you don't miss out on that as well. And we've only seen, really continued success, even as we were going through this time of horror and fright and all that. SPY is now what? It's trading literally, it's right off of all-time highs. It's basically, I think, at close, had what, one or two closes ever? higher than it is now after it, obviously had a great day today and came all the way back up. So there is no shame in those, certainly. So the names I had from you were ICE, which is cool with ICE. If you ever go to the New York Stock Exchange and you walk around in there, you see them all over. DOCN, DigitalOcean, which I do like that chart for DOCN that you had pointed out. And I love that of your gut because obviously you vetted it. That's great. Did a couple of little pieces on the chart while you were talking. So it bounced pretty nicely off the 100 day, came through there on multiple days and used that as support. And then if you put an anchor view up to back on the September 17th and the September 23rd, those two kind of peaks right there before it had its initial run up, you'll get those that are right above where it is now. So if it could come back through this pivot point kind of at like 97.22, right around that area, it's got room and it's got that gap down, right? So it's got an opportunity to kind of slowly make that ground back up. And then those other teams as well. Obviously, Apple, that was your pick last week. Probably one of few picks that, coming out of that looked really good off the bat and still, was up 3% over the past week, even with, being down 4.5% at one point, has climbed back from there. So props to you for looking at it and saying, hey, this may be at near all-time highs, but I'm taking it anyways. And now, of course, it's set new all-time highs since. And then that last one with Shopify, a stock that is, very strong and has shown that over the past, really, 5 years as well, I guess over the past 2 years, mainly as it's shown substantial growth. And a lot of people, I feel like, always talk about, hey, why didn't I just get into Shop at this point? Why didn't I get into Shop at this point? Great leadership in that company, great fundamentals, and so much other stuff. So when you do have the opportunity to get in, like when it came down to the 200 day, that probably should have been like the signal right there. Because look at Shop, every time it hits its 200 day, it reacts really nicely to it and comes back up. So the last two times immediately, and then the two times before that, it's basically always respected its 200 day. If you go back all the way to the pandemic. It really just tested the 200 day, nothing insane of a drop below it. Okay, keeping it rolling. So far we've heard from Juicy and Mel and Trade Tracer and Stock Talk Weekly and Stock Market News and Pristine Cap. I'm taking notes of all these and I will tweet these out afterwards. Let's go to Vegas. Which sounds great when I say it like that.
So I want to talk to you guys about, we talked recently in the last couple of Twitter spaces, we talked about MTTR, Matterport, and we know that this metaverse is extremely popular, obviously in the crypto space, and definitely we should not be taking MTTR, Matterport off the watch list. I think it should be back on watch. The weekly chart's setting up, in my opinion, for another move, and I know we had this go all the way to about 37.60. It's around 26.36, so we got about a $11 pullback here. So if it does pull back even more, I actually like it. And I think we should definitely keep this on watch for a potential move to the upside. It looks like the weekly chart is poised for a move. The company obviously has various sources of revenue with their subscription model. They have obviously their Pro 3D camera. They have obviously a proprietary license for digital twin data, and they have a very scalable model. Obviously, they have also a freemium model where people can get basic features, and then they have a charging premium for advanced features. So customers can actually try out the platform. And you know what? For those of people who may not be familiar with what this company does, obviously they do a lot of 3D imaging for, especially very popular for virtual property tours, for obviously real estate agents or even commercial properties. And they have had a lot of clients subscribe to them. And they obviously are estimating that there are 20 billion spaces around the world that are very well suited for 3D reconstruction. So they're looking to probably address this particular market to be apparently 1.3 billion spaces worldwide. So they do have the opportunity to penetrate this particular addressable market. And so I think longer term this has a lot of movement, but we know it's already had that nice pop. I just think it should be back on watch and potential looking to get back in from a swing trade perspective. And the other thing too is that they had the one of the world's largest commercial real estate companies called Cushman and Wakefield. The ticker is CWK. Obviously, had Matterport as one of their clients. I mean, they subscribe to the platform, and then we know that Eric. ERIC, the ticker. Obviously, they are also I think they're an investor in the company, the Ericsson Ventures. They're an investor of MTTR, but they also obviously are using the platform as well. So the thing is with Matterport, they have a lot of customers, and they're in the top Fortune 1000. So I think it's something to definitely watch because they're definitely looking to gain more market share. But the reason I'm mentioning the stock is because we have traded it in the past month, and it looks like it's time to get back in for a potential swing. So definitely have this on watch because I'm looking to get back in. I don't have a position anymore, but definitely looking to get back in here. Nvidia was mentioned already earlier tonight. Looking for that Nvidia, if no one's in the Nvidia trade, really looking for this break tomorrow, if it can break this 325. Looking for this to have a continuation. And actually looking for Nvidia to head a pretty big move, heading towards probably $350 is what I'm forecasting from a swing perspective. And we did talk about some cars earlier, but I did want to mention General Motors is ready for a swing. The weekly chart's absolutely beautiful, and that one's looking for a move towards 65. So the trade should be active. I'm already have a swing in play on GM. And it did trigger when it broke that $62 level. And then one to watch also is Ford. I'm not in Ford, but definitely one to watch as well for a swing trade if it can break that $20.50. Ford actually it's a bit of a slow mover because we all know that the float is huge in the billions. But it is doing really well and had a very nice close. So if it can break $20.50, we can see a $2 move. And those of you that like to trade options, I mean, Ford options are usually pretty cheap. And you can, if you're not going to do December, definitely go out to January. I think you'll see some nice activity there. And then the last two I just want to mention is stock market news. You mentioned Disney, and I'm kind of glad you did, but I will say that there was a lot of dark pool on Disney last week. A lot of money came in on Disney, and I actually took a starter swing today on Disney. And the reason we took the trade is because they did confirm from the dark pool prints that once Disney broke that 151 level, that it was time to take a swing. And you can see that it closed pretty much around that area. And so looking for a continuation on Disney. And want to see Disney heading towards probably 156 to 158. So a nice move on Disney is looking like it's setting up based on the dark pool prints. And the last one obviously was mentioned also, I think PayPal. Really loving PayPal and looking for this to head towards $200. So PayPal looks good here, even though it closed just shy of about 192. I mean, it's ready for a move here. So definitely liking PayPal as well. So those are the kinds of ones I'm looking at. I'm in the ones in particular. And I'm in Apple already and GM. So those are the ones that to keep on watch and for some big moves. But definitely some really juicy moves on PayPal for sure, Nvidia for sure, Disney looks good. And I think it was an MTTR looking ready for another move. So those are the ones I'm looking at to get back in. But I am in already, in, like I said, in Apple and in Nvidia and in GM. So and Disney as well. So I'm not in any other ones that I mentioned though. So it's quite the list, but they're all looking really good and all have money flow confirmation and dark pool. So that is why I love them so much.
It definitely is quite the list. And I'm not like kind of double noting here. So I already had Nvidia and Apple down and Disney, but I'm taking from you Matterport, GM, Ford, and PayPal.
Yes.
Were there others besides those that weren't
No, those are the ones the ones to definitely consider definitely for swing trade, or even for day trade probably too, but just matter really more from a swing perspective. The other ones could still probably be day traded too.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense. With Matterport here, the chart almost reminds me a little bit of that Digitalocean chart a little bit. Um, it kind of had, I guess, that initial run up, and now has kind of come down. It bounced right off of the 50-day um, into where it is at now, and has kind of come right back through and tipped right through the 21 day right here, which is interesting to see. And this is a play that I have liked. I think similar to you, a lot of people have been talking metaverse. It's getting a lot of movement towards it, and it's shown strength. And I like where the RSI is at. But really, what stands out to me with Matterport, for anyone that's looking, is the volume over the last several trading sessions. And then, yes, many of those were red, but I mean, look at the amount of attention that the stock is simply getting here is just incredible. Compared to what it was getting a mere, just even like a month or two ago. So many tall candles here, and of course we got a nice green one today with a big spike. Looks like it closed up over about a dozen% here towards the close. So this one is one that went all the way up to 37, is trading at 26 right now. I traded down to 22 just a day ago. So it would be interesting to see how that continues, but definitely on my list. And then, I think, PayPal, it's kind of like, where can we find that bottom? I'm interested. I really do like, because now it's like, do we get to see this move during this next week? Is it something that is going to happen? And so watching that, it's kind of trying to build the base. I see it. It's got $81 million of a volume shelf there at the bottom. The 10-day EMA, it just got pushed back through. Finally, it broke back through that. If that's something that maybe, I don't know, Mel, you want to drop like any dark pool stuff on PayPal and any action that it's getting, because I know that there's people that are buying. I can see the green candles. Like, people had been buying over the last week or two after that immense selling for about a month. So we certainly see it coming. And then GM looks good too. Been looking at this GM one. Also, I saw the guy Adami in here. Looks like he popped in for just a second. We'll have to get him up on one of these. But with GM, coming back towards those all-time highs and like a 30% move from the lows, the recent lows. So, now that it's back above the 200-day, reclaimed that, back through the 21-day, and then, like you said, broke through 62. I think that is a pretty good point to put it at, and it's great to hear that you're already actively in it. Love when people share that, by the way, whether they're actively already in something. I think it gives a lot more of a perspective to the audience. Okay. With that being said, hopefully I hit on everything there. Mel, I actually want to just hear real quick. Can you look up real quick the flow and the dark pool data for PayPal?
Yes, there was some shorter dated. I'm actually working on a chart right now that's going to show the 30-day historical. We do have a little accumulation structure here at the bottom with price just barely peaking above. We'll show some additional levels where we have larger activity that is above us that could come into play as potential resistance, but you are absolutely correct. We have had a lot of shares coming off here in PayPal. And as side note and follow up to Vegas, I'm really glad she mentioned MTTR because it put my eyes back on that. So appreciate that, Vegas. On 11/23, we had a 1.41 million share dark pool print, and price is currently popping above that level. And it's just not one that we see that kind of size in. Very unusual to have that kind of volume. So I like that price is now reclaiming above that. So I'll grab those two charts and share them in here so that our viewers can be able to check those out as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I want to comment, thanks, Mel,
yeah,
on your comments about MT. Yeah, sorry, I just want to quickly comment about MTTR. So I like it back on watch, and I actually think it's going to have a breakout. So when I look at the weekly chart, it looks to me like it's poised for a breakout. So just a matter of when, and we just need that volume. But I think once the volume comes in, which we're starting to see the volume trickling in, I think the stock will have another breakout. So definitely, for those of you that love momentum trading like I do, you're going to be wanting to look at that. Stock Talk's going to have that on his watch for sure.
Definitely. Big momentum guy. Keeping it on the watch list. Very cool. Awesome. So we made it through everybody. And just to reiterate, Going back to the start, Juicy had SPY and Myrna. Mel had SOXL, XLF, PLBY, and Plug. And I will tweet these out very shortly. Trade Tracer, that's up here with us. Blake had AOSL, Nvidia, and Nail. Stock Talk Weekly had DMYQ, SQ, BitF, Tesla, and TRT. Stock Market News had Disney. Andrew had ICE, DOCN, Shop, and Apple. And then Vegas had MTTR, GM, Ford, and PayPal. So we were able to hit on everybody, and those were the stock picks for this week. Now we're going to go into just a bit of wrap up. So any thoughts, moving forward, any advice in the market for the rest of the week? And we'll wrap up with that. One more time, huge shout out to our host tonight, Stock Market News, for what he's doing. I typically host this on Tuesday nights, but again, I've had a lot of problems with service as I'm traveling. I even got knocked out of this space briefly, which sucked, but I got back in. So make sure if you're not already that you're following Evan's Stock Market News. Not only is he amazing on spaces, but also is consistently putting out, the man's just sitting on here tweeting out valuable information all day. Scroll through his timeline if you don't believe me, and you'll see it right away. He's worth your follow. So with that being said, Evan, do you want to start us off for wrap up?
Yeah, no, I always love these spaces. I would have been just in here chilling on this space. I would be up here as a speaker, but I would have been here listening, chilling, as always. So I'm happy to do this whenever I can if it's needed more. Great spaces. I love this every single week. Looking forward to it next week. And, couple things here. One, make sure you're following all these speakers up here. Wolf really only gets the best people to come up here. And, this was no different than any other time. So just big shout out to Wolf for that. Make sure you're following his personal account, the Gov Blacksburg account that's up here as well. Getting very close to 8K, so it'd be really cool if we could do that. And then, I would love maybe, one shout out to Bullish Rippers, the Green Raccoon, which is up here as well. I personally run that account, so if you want to check it out, that'd be cool. And then, Gav, I know this was a little bit off topic, I'm sorry for it, but could we give us 15 seconds, whatever the quickest version of the Google Calendar is?
Yeah, absolutely. And a bunch of people, I think I have over 30 DMs from people that want to join this already. If you haven't already and you want to know when all the rest of our spaces are going to be, and you're like, how can I find these without having to just scroll through Twitter or pop in and get lucky that stopped my screen? DM myself or the host, Stock Market News, right now. Shoot us your email, preferably a Gmail if possible, and join over 1,500 other people that are on our free public Google Calendar that are knowing when every single space is going to happen, whether that's stock picking, technical analysis, crypto, NFTs. We do it all. You can join up for free on that calendar. Again, just shoot us over your email and we will add you right to it. And thank you. I'm excited to get this account to 8K. Spent a lot of time getting that Wolf account. It's 38K. And obviously both are continuing to build. Really good stuff. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Evan. And big shout out to Bullish Rippers, the Green Raccoon that Evan does tweet from that account. They hit 10K recently, and we're going to keep that ball rolling. Okay, Andrew, would you like to go next with your wrap up?
Yes, sure. Thanks for having me as always. These spaces are so much fun. I think especially too, on a day like today when the markets really are coming back, this is when it's great to just hear what's on everyone's watch list and really just take note and, look at these and add them into your own process. There's definitely a bunch of ideas that I heard today that I'm going to be adding to my watch list for tomorrow. So it's always a good experience on these spaces. One thing I will say is my concluding remark. The markets have been, pretty back and forth over the past, 2 to 3 weeks. There's been a lot of ups and downs. So I think it's important, literally just a few days ago, it literally seemed as if the markets were going to slip into the abyss and it was all over. People were talking about, the 2018 20% correction, and it all seemed like that could happen. I was bracing myself for a big downturn as well. So I think when we get these really big vol events, it's important to just see what weaknesses in your own process were exposed. Because in my process, some of my weaknesses were exposed, things I wasn't doing correctly, things I need to work on, things that, I just hadn't really been paying attention to that I should have been paying more attention to, things like that. So, I think it's awesome that the market just rebounded like this. But I would definitely just remember, what did it feel like when the markets were careening to the lows? What mistakes did I make? And just think about how you can improve on that moving forward. Because that's really how you have your growth as a trader or an investor. It's always about, okay, what did I do here? how did it go wrong and how can I do better? So I think if you do that, you'll be in a much better spot the next time the markets get super volatile. Because I do think in 2022, I don't think, I don't think we've seen the last of volatility. I think it's going to be a recurring theme throughout next year. So definitely, just good to keep that in mind, and, good to just keep working on the process for sure.
100%. Got to keep those feelings in mind. And I think it kind of boils back to two things. One, nothing is profit and nothing is loss, but remember, nothing is profit unless it's realized, right? Like you could have been up 30% on the year and now you are up nothing or you are negative. So you do have to take the proper precautions to ensure that you are keeping that money. And then number two, you got to take emotion out of it a lot of times, right? And just like, when it was going down, if you had panic sold, maybe you wouldn't have caught, the next 10 moves up. The same way when it's going up, you have to, remove some of that emotion too and trade based on what you know how to do, right? Your technicals, your fundamentals, looking at the volume, looking at other areas, creating a full picture. Big shout out to Catherine also for joining us, Catherine Ross. I don't know if she wants to come up at all, Evan, but if she doesn't wants to give any, remarks for a couple minutes, she can. In the meantime, Juicy, would you like to go next? Any closing thoughts?
Hey, so again, I want to say thanks for having me on. I think that this is nothing out of the ordinary. I think that every trader should stick to their trading plan and trading edge and trade that plan and use your edge, right? So for me, I'm pretty much bullish on the market going into the next couple weeks until SPY basically closed below the low of today. That's pretty much my stop on my current position on SPY, and QQQ pretty much the same thing. So I'm expecting tech and semis, as everybody said before, to continue. I don't really have too many active intraday setups going into tomorrow. I do run a live stream that's combined with my scanner. I'll probably throw that out on Twitter. If you follow me, go ahead and follow me. I'll throw it out. You can see my screen. You can hear me talk. And you can see my scanner next to my screen, and it's pretty cool. But besides that, guys, have a good one. I'm pretty much out. And again, Wolf, thanks for having me, and I look forward to the next one. Have a good one, guys.
Great having you on, Juicy. Always good stuff. All right, Blake, all you. I think you got muted again. Is he muted for you too, Evan?
Yeah, he's muted for me.
Okay. All right. While Blake is getting that going, let's go to Mel.
I'm just going to finish with the fear and greed index. That was something we were looking at and mentioning on the last spaces. Definitely worth a a search if it's not part of your arsenal already, so you can get a little bit of general sentiment. Previous close, we were at 25, which was extreme fear. Today we closed at 35, coming off of it a bit. 1 month ago, we were at 85, which was tipping us a little bit too close to that greed extreme. So we're kind of more in a neutral area. So just keep that as in mind as we continue to progress. You're also taking and adding in sentiment as part of your arsenal, just to make sure you're staying on the right side of the trade. I really appreciate everybody's content today. And Andrew, you're right, like so many ideas. My watch list has grown as well. So love getting together with everybody and being able to get some insight on some good setups going into this week and moving forward.
Love it, and absolutely the same. I've added a bunch of these to my watch list. I also just tweeted out and I pinned it up top if anyone wants to check it. All of the picks from tonight, so you can have those. You can have those to watch this. You can look at the radiation. There's some really, really good setups in there. And again, this speaker panel is chosen because this is what they do. Like this is how they support themselves, make a living. A lot of them is they're out here investing, doing so much. And Evan, if we get Blake back up here real quick, that would be great. So there's a reason that we're coming to them. It's like if you are sick, you go to the doctor who has expertise, right? And they tell you and they give you the prescription. And like if you're looking for opportunity in the market, you go to the people who do it every day for a living, right? And you ask them like, hey, give me some ideas. And of course, I'll reaffirm that this is all ideation, right? Like we're not telling you like go and buy this and sell this. It's ideation, it's education, it's a place to throw around ideas. We've said this many times in here. do your own research, do the fundamentals, do the technicals, put in the time and effort. The last thing you want to do is buy something because someone told you to, because odds are they're not going to tell you when to sell. And we talked about how that's the harder part of the equation. So you really want to have a good idea of when you're going to buy, when you're going to sell as you go into it. Okay, Blake, we got you back up here. You good to go?
Yeah, I think so. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to reiterate everybody else that was on here tonight. Appreciate everybody's thoughts. Definitely highlighted some good setups that I'll be adding to my watch list. But just to kind of add some closing notes, I think it's important to always have your longer term thesis, or what's your longer term investment time horizon. It's important to always be thinking along that path. You don't want to end up being 50 and broke. For me, yes, the market is at all-time highs. We're in a prolonged bull market, but we're just now entering the exponential age, where for the first time in history, we're seeing new technologies like AI, blockchain, genome and sequencing, EV, and all of these things are converging together. And we're going to be seeing adoption in technology faster than we've ever seen before. So the rate of adoption and the rate that we are going to be experiencing these technological advances is going to be exponential. So you want to place your bets on the companies that have that long-term vision and that are building in that technological age. And to make things simple, it's the NASDAQ, it's the QQQ. But if you want to get a little more nitty gritty, look to see what some of the semis are. Obviously, Nvidia's on that list, Tesla's on that list. Baidu is big into AI, Apple, obviously. But always have, that long-term vision. And I think we're still going to see a bigger bull market over the next 10 to 15 years as this exponential age accelerates. And that's going to be a direct reflection on asset prices. So I hope everybody enjoyed tonight. As always, one day does not make a market, but always have that guiding light. Appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you so much, Blake. Really good stuff there at the end. Loved it. Okay, Vegas, any closing thoughts?
I just want to thank everyone for their time tonight and for listening and for sharing ideas. And thank you for all the nice follows and compliments that everyone's sharing with each other. I look forward to tomorrow, and definitely if any other things pop up, I will be happy to share my ideas also live in real time on Twitter when I post some ideas. And this way it gives people an opportunity to also be part of the trade as well, if the trade is of interest to you as well. So thank you so much for letting me be part of this wonderful panel tonight.
Pleasure having you on, as always. Make sure that you're checking out everything Vegas is doing. Okay, Stock Talk Weekly, Stock Talk Daily, Stock Talk Secondly, coming to you.
Stock Talk Secondly, that was good. Yeah, man, I kind of covered a bit of a recap when I first spoke on the markets in general, but volume is always tradable, is what I'll say. I think that a lot of on FinTwit, there's a lot of long bias, bull bias is what you can call it as well, where people believe that they can only trade upside in stocks, and that's just, objectively not true. Obviously, you can short stocks, you can play puts. There's other leverage ways that you can play downside in stocks, and you can do it on individual stocks or ETFs or broader market indexes. But the reality is you can play both sides of the market, and anytime there's volume, whether it's selling volume or upside bid escalation and buying volume, volume is volume, and it's always tradable, and price action is always tradable. So if you're a newer trader that finds yourself, the only thing you ever do is buy stocks, and you buy them on the upside and hope for the upside, don't be afraid to diversify a bit. Don't be afraid to approach the market in different ways and play different asset classes and play them in different directions. It's not going to hurt you, at least to try. And I can understand that a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. There's even a further narrative sometimes that's spread that it's like bad to do that. Or, people are like, I'll never short a stock, or I'll never buy puts because it's evil. That's silly in my opinion. But regardless, just understand that chop is tradable, volume's tradable, and if you're not confident in the direction of the indexes, then that's fine. I'm not confident in the direction of the indices either right now. That's why I'm not making any, very high conviction investment or extended time horizon type buys. I'm trying to stay liquid, stay flexible, stay nimble, and be able to trade, multiple different themes and multiple different sectors. And I try not to pigeonhole myself, and stay open to trading different strategies and different asset classes and different sectors. So that's kind of the way I'm playing it right now. And for those who had a rough week last week and saw a nice rebound today that might have saved you from your margin call or whatever it may be, because I know there were a lot of people that were in trouble last week. I got a lot of DMs from people that follow me as well who were losing a lot of money last week. Learn lessons from that. Learn lessons from when you're overexposed during a downturn in the markets, right? Because people tend to just go through those downturns, wait for a rebound, and then change nothing about their capital allocation strategy. I think that's a poor way to go about it. I think at the end of the day, investing and trading, whether you're investing or whether you're trading or whether you're doing both, it's still at the end of the day is about opportunity cost. Your money should be where you think it is best suited to make you the most amount of returns. It's all about ROI, opportunity cost, and managing your risk. So ask yourself every day, the market's constantly changing, constantly adapting, trends are constantly changing, themes are constantly changing, sentiment is constantly changing, the industries that are in favor are constantly changing. So knowing that these things are constantly changing and taking a stoic approach to me is just illogical. Knowing that the market is this fluid and this ever changing, your strategy should be to a certain degree as well. And I'm not telling people to break their own rules or disobey their own strategies. Keep a core strategy and maintain your risk tolerance, but be willing to adapt and be willing to be nimble, because that's how you're going to be able to capitalize best off the markets. Because if you are the type of person that's completely a passive investor who doesn't look at their portfolio every day, then maybe this doesn't apply to you. But most of the people I talk to and most of the people who are on Twitter every day reading and interacting are looking at their portfolios multiple times a day. And if you're one of those people, to me, there's no excuse not to actively manage it. And that doesn't have to mean, being 100% cash at the end of every week. That's not what that means. It just means that you're actively managing your exposure to be best suited to what is in favor in the market, because what is in favor in the market changes constantly. And anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. The market is constantly, changing what it wants to run, what it wants to dump. And if you can find yourself, in the right favor of those exposures, then you'll do well. But don't kid yourself either to be a predictor. Let the theme come to you. I always tell people, it's better to be one stop too late than it is to be 5 stops too early. So, let the theme be confirmed, let the trend be confirmed. Don't rush into your decision making, and don't, fall under the belief or even the ego that you have a crystal ball, because a lot of people have tried to predict the course of markets and the course of, sentiment based on policy changes and the direction of the indexes based on how overextended they are. People have been trying to do that for years and years and years. And if it was that easy to definitively predict, a lot of those people would be billionaires, and they're not. And so the reality is it's not a game of predicting. It's a game of playing the trend, in my opinion, and that's the way I do it. And so let that trend come to you and let it be confirmed before you're making any rash decisions. But that's what I'll just say in closing.
Yeah, I mean, really great points all around, especially about playing upside, downside. And I think just the overall message that I'm taking away from what you're saying here is be flexible, right? Like, nobody's doing amazing because they're just set in their ways. And when the people are, I think people can see right through it, as it's almost like a weakness nowadays where you can't have that flexibility, because, as Peter Tuchman loves to say, this isn't your grandfather's stock market, right? And he's
And it
correct.
never will be again.
Exactly. It has changed forever. So we have to adapt with it. And, well said from you in every way that we do need to adapt. Okay. Also, got one more thing I just want to point out. Again, this space was recorded by @Wade Stunk, so huge shout out to them, as well as it was internally recorded by Twitter. The fact that Wade recorded it will allow me to post it onto YouTube and Spotify. The links to those are in my bio, as well as the Wolf bio. I think that they're in my bio, but they're definitely in the Wolf bio. And I will post them to the Wolf YouTube as well as the Wolf Spotify, and then I will post those onto Twitter. So as long as you're following, you will see those get tweeted out. I'll tag our speakers in them, and that'll be the best way to listen back, as well as you can now internally on Twitter listen to recordings on both desktop and on mobile. So you have a lot of optionality there. One last time, a lot of people have DM'd me asking to be on the Google Calendar. I need to have your email in order to do it. Gmail is best. You can send it to myself, you can send it to the Wolf account, or you can send it to Stock Market News. We'll get you on there one way or another. But just make sure that your email is in there. And with that being said, I think that concludes everything for tonight. We ran for an hour and 45 minutes. Huge shout out to my speakers. Much love to our listeners for coming in here and spending your night with us. We love you, and we're so grateful to have you here. This community really means the world to a lot of us. So with that being said, that's everything that I have for tonight. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. We'll be back on Spaces. I think my first space tomorrow is actually with Stock Market News and Catherine Ross in the street at 3 p.m. EST, I believe. So we'll be on, and Stock Talk Weekly will be there, and Sarge, and a bunch of others. So we'll be on with the street talking more about the market. So we hopefully we'll see you there. Have a great night, everybody.